Have you been wanting to create your own ebook cover using Photoshop? Well, today I'm going to show you exactly how to do it from beginning to end. You don't need any Photoshop experience. However, you obviously do need Photoshop installed on your computer in order to follow along. So we're going to do that in today's video. Hi everyone, I'm Lisa from Indie Marketing, where I help authors to sell more books. Today I'm doing a tech tutorial on how to create an ebook cover from scratch using Adobe Photoshop. Now if you like today, you might also be interested in the other tutorial where I talk about how to take a pre-made cover and then edit and customize that for yourself, as well as an entirely new tutorial on how to create book mock-ups and use those for your social media posts. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to open up Photoshop and click Create New. Now, over here, you're going to make sure the width says 1600, the height says 2650, this is pixels, we have a portrait orientation, a resolution of 300 pixels per inch, color mode of RGB because this is an e-cover, and go ahead and select a white background and click Create. So this is what your cover looks like. Over here on the right, go ahead and click that lock button so that it is unlocked. If you don't see layers on the right, go ahead and go to Window and make sure that layers is selected. Now the specs that I got for this I selected from Amazon, and my specs for my covers for Amazon work just fine when I upload that same cover to Nook and to Kobo and to iTunes, so I think you're in pretty good shape. Now this is January of 2018, and obviously you should check this to make sure that it hasn't differed since then. The second step is to then go over and look around at different covers, whether it's on Amazon or somewhere else. This is a no longer in business book blog tour company, but I really liked this cover by Laura Griffin, so we're going to try to model after that when we make our cover, but you should have some kind of covers in mind. Now the first thing you should notice about this cover is there are 3 different fonts. So there is one font for the author name, a second one for the book title, and a third one for the series name, or where it says her, qualifier as best-selling author. So think about the fonts that you want to use because you want to use those consistently. If you have a cover that a designer has made for you in the past and you don't know what that font is, just ask them. They will tell you. They won't provide you with the font. You can purchase that from Creative Market or just Google it. Sometimes it's free, but you cannot, you shouldn't be changing your fonts on every cover. Also, these fonts you'll notice are a sans serif font. If you don't know what that is, the serif font, which is the opposite of the sans serif, looks a little fancier, and because it's fancier, it's actually more difficult to read, especially when you talk about those tiny thumbnails that pop up in an Amazon search results. So sans serif doesn't have any of that. It's just kind of plain blocky letters, and they may not look as pretty, but trust me, it's going to be much easier for people to read, and that's really what's most important. The second thing you should do is you should pick out a cover of somebody that we are going to use, whether it is a man, it's a couple, or it's a woman or something else, depending on whatever your cover is. And again, I'm talking about romance covers. Obviously if you're doing some YA dystopian, you might want to pick a scene of a city or, a steampunk sort of cover, but either way, you need an image. Now, I use Deposit Photos because they have a pretty generous license when it comes to using the photos, and you'll never have to worry about copyright rules. And because of that reason, you'll actually sometimes see a lot of these photos on multiple covers. This is the same place that Cover Designers, this is like probably a super popular one over here that I see on a lot of different covers, just edited in different ways or photoshopped in different ways by Cover Designers. So that is one downfall, but alternatively you could pay for a photo shoot on your own to get your photos for your cover. Now, when you're selecting a photo, make sure you select a good photo. And when I say good, I mean a clean photo. So for example, this is a terrible photo, despite how great this guy may look, he mixes in with the background. It's almost like black on black. And the same thing, tan on tan, it's really hard to see You know, this is an excellent photo because this man is on a white background, and that's kind of what you want because you might want to use your own background or texture. You know, it's great if he already shows up like that. And the other thing too is you want to make sure that you've changed the criteria over here so that you're only selecting vertical photos because your cover is vertical. Now, the second thing you're going to do is once you find that cover, we're going to go ahead and take that guy and we're going to make him transparent. So when you download that photo, go ahead and go open with, right click, and select Photoshop. So here's the guy that I want to use. Over here on the right under layers, make sure you unlock it just like we did before. If you don't see the layers panel, like I said, go to window and make sure layers is selected. Over here on the left, this should be your toolbar. It might be on the right, it might be floating somewhere. If you don't see it, make sure you go to window and make sure tools is selected. Now the fourth tool down, I think it's the fourth, yeah, quick selection. Make sure if you right click this, you have two options. You have quick selection and you have magic wand. I would choose quick selection, and what we're going to do is it's going to guess. Photoshop is actually pretty smart. You're going to put this, you're going to see a little cross like this. You're going to put the cross anywhere inside that white background because we had a nice white background photo, and you're going to drag it to the left, like away from your subject. And then once you do that, it's going to guess at where all of the white space is. You can see with these little ants, that's what they're called, ants. They're just kind of like a dash line that's vibrating almost, and you're going to hit the delete button. And what's left over here, this checkered pattern, that means it's transparent. This is a good thing because now we aren't taking this huge white background with us. Same thing over here, just drag away. You'll see the ants, hit delete. Same thing over here, hit delete, hit delete. Let's go ahead. Now it did guess over here and it took his shoe, but that's okay because that is probably the world's most hideous shoe, so we're going to go ahead and delete it. There's a little bit of white there, not really a lot. So that's pretty much it. I feel pretty good about this photo. Now if you make a mistake, the easiest thing, you can do Control-Z, but Photoshop will only remember one action. It's not like Microsoft Word where it remembers 20 actions. So if you go over to History, you can go back to a previous selection. So if I go over here to Clear, or up here, you can see the white is back because I've gone backwards in time. But I'm going to go ahead and not do that. Now, if you don't see the history window, same thing, go to window and make sure history is selected, which is pretty much true anytime you see anyone doing a Photoshop tutorial and you want to follow along and they're using a panel that you don't see on your workspace because maybe it's set up differently. Just go to window and make sure that's selected. And the way to know which panel they're using is over here. It will always say, like, this is the channels panel, this is paths, layers, swatches, color, adjustment. It's pretty simple to follow along. All right, we're going to go over here to window. We're going to go to arrange and we're going to go to 2-up vertical. So now I can see my book cover and I can see my model guy. So I'm going to go over here to the very top to this move tool, and I'm going to make sure this layer is selected. Well, actually it's the only layer in my photo, so it's pretty easy. And I'm going to take the layer, not the guy, and I'm going to drag the layer onto my book cover file window. Now, I don't need this anymore, so I'm going to close this out, save. I'm going to say don't save. Over here, I'm going to move this guy down. Oops. So I line him up right there. So how did I move him? I made sure the move tool was selected, and then I made sure that layer, this guy is selected, and then I can move him anywhere I want. So the next step is to fill in this white space with something a little more interesting, and we're going to go ahead and add cement. So I have some cement over here. It's a JPEG file. All I have to do is simply take that file from my file folder and drag it onto Photoshop, and it will add it here. Now, it's a little too small, so I'm going to pull it to the top, and you see how it has these little X's over here? If you don't see that, all you have to do is hit Command T and those will show up. I'm going to take this and I'm going to drag it down. So it's like that. This probably isn't the best background. I could probably work on finding a better one, but it's good enough for our purposes right now. Now the next thing we want to do is we are going to add text. So I'm going to add my name up here at the top and then the title at the bottom. Actually, before we do that, let's do a gradient. So over here on the color panel, we are going to make sure that we have selected black. which black is all zeros if you're wondering what the hex color is. And over here, we're going to go to this tool. We're going to hit that little button over there and select gradient. Now, the gradient works like this. I want it to go up, so I'm going to leave it at 90 degrees. If I wanted it to go from the top down, I could just turn it over here, or from the right to the left. So that's what this angle thing means. It's angling the colors. Now, this might be a little too much, so if I hit this gradient right here, just click it once, gradient editor will come up, and I can actually take this top bar and move it to the left, and you'll see that gradient move down a little bit. So I actually don't like his jeans, and I don't like his jewelry, so I'm going to leave it probably right about there, and I'm going to say OK, and then OK, and I'm pretty much all set. Now, the only thing I need to make sure is layers work like this. Whatever is on top of the other thing in terms of the picture. So I want to make sure that when I select the type tool over here, that layer ends up, I can click anywhere on here, being on top. So I'm going to put Lisa London. Now, Lisa London, the font that I use is a Dido font. And my font is not that big. Let's do 80, 40. We move it. So I have the move tool selected now instead of the type tool. And over here, if you don't see this, again, just go to Window and make sure Character selected, and then you can change your type, well, anything. You can change the font, you can change the size of the font, you can make it bold, you can make it italic, you can make it all caps or lowercase, you can make it small caps. It's really up to you. I like all caps. Obviously, you could have just typed all caps in as well. Now for color over here, if you click that, if you know your color hex code, you can just type it in directly. If not, you can use the slider button over here to select whatever color you may want to use. So let's say we want to go ahead and use purple, like a dark purple over here. I'm going to say OK. And down here, same thing. I'm going to hit the type tool, and I need to give this guy a title. So I'm going to call this Stepbrother. And I'm going to select a different font. So over here, maybe I'll do an Oswald. And the type of Oswald, I'll pick a demi bold. And then I want this font to be a little bigger. So I'm going to say 48. And the letters are too close together. So over here, I'm going to go ahead, see that where that just has the arrows right and left. I'm going to go ahead and just guess and say 30. And you see how that spread it out a little. And I'm going to double that and say 60. Now, purple on black is really hard to see, so I am going to change that to white. And that's much easier to see. And I'm going to say, I'm going to change this to my sexy stepbrother, hit return, and put that on a different line. Now, this is really far apart. So over here, the line spacing in between lines says 110. I'm going to change this to, I could change it to auto, and it's going to guess for me, and that's probably good enough. Maybe I want to make it this light. And again, you can kind of play around with this and just see which colors and fonts and everything else that you like. And I can call it my stepbrother, and I can do another text tool, and I could call this maybe the Secret Fantasy series. And obviously I need to pick a third font for this. So let's go ahead and pick maybe Nutriface text, or I could do Tony, and I don't want this to be all caps, and I want this to be a 10. And I'm going to select the move tool to move it, and it's too big. And I had a typo, so I'm going to hit the text type tool again, click in there, make that change, and that's it. So I'm pretty much done with this book title, and again wants to wait to export it because you can't use a Photoshop file you can't upload that really anywhere. So I'm going to go to File, I'm going to go to Export, and I'm going to say Save for Web. And over here the dimension sizes are fine. The preset says JPEG. You could change this. I believe it takes TIFF. But I would strongly recommend just sticking with JPEG high and then clicking Save. And then you can specify where you want to save that. So I can save this to the desktop and call it my new cover. And it ends in a JPG. So then when I go over to the desktop, I can double click this and it'll show up as my new cover. So that's really all there is to making a book cover. Obviously I missed some white areas in here and some white over there, which you can go back and fix, but I just want to show you it's really simple. It's not too hard. You can use some stock images. So I hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have questions, and let me know what your book covers look like and how you're making them.